It's interesting, even this whole church starts with that premise, that there are certain things, there are big ideas that the churches need to hold together, and as the churches have these things, the growth will be more natural. And we've talked about these for 4 months now. We've talked about them over and over and over, and many of you are getting sick of them, and all I can say is tighten your seatbelts because you're going to hear about them for another 4 months, and 4 months after that, 4 months after that, and as I figure, as long as Lifesong is alive, we'll keep hearing about these 6 big ideas. I'm not going to talk about them a lot, but just to go over them, just to remind you of them, I think these are things that need to be in place for any church to have its rungs in place. A recognition, 6 big ideas. The idea that the church is primary, the primacy of the church, the understanding that the church is a place of great influence. We do not need to buy the world's lie that the church is irrelevant and impotent. We need to believe the Lord's truths, that the church is such strong foundation and structure that as it's centered upon the Lord Jesus himself, even the gates of hell will not withstand our attacks. The primacy of the church. That we do not loan our power or give our power away to somebody else because we think that secretly the media, the politics, the education, the journalism, the entertainment, the pop culture, the art, whatever it may be, we secretly think they have more power than we do. The truth is there are things that only the church can do, and here's the sad truth. When the church doesn't do them in a culture, nobody does them. There is nobody that will replace the church. Not a good parachurch ministry, not anybody. They all have things they do, but certain things only the church is ordained to do. Discipleship that matters. This is what the church does best, or ought to do best. Not only discipleship, but discipleship that is relevant to every aspect of your life, to who you are, to who I am. Whether you are a plumber or a carpenter or an Intel worker or a professor or a musician, whatever your field should be, the lordship of Christ should be infused in your work and your activity and your life. If you're a mom or a dad or a child or a sister or a brother, the lordship of Christ should be infused in your life in everything you do. This great secular spiritual divide is completely artificial and arbitrary. You are spiritual. Things you engage in have spiritual consequences, whether you recognize them or not. So we want to have as a church, our job is discipleship that makes a difference, that matters. Grace. Without an understanding of grace, the idea that our true righteousness comes only from the Lord Jesus, we will never fill that barrel very full. We talked a lot about that. Servanthood. The idea that we are to go out and seek and save and serve and not wait and coerce them to come into us. We do what we can to make our service appealing. We do what we can to let people know where we are. Someday we'll have another building and the location will help people to come to us. That's all relevant. But our job as a church is to serve the community around us. That's why we spend so much time in the park. That's why we spend so much time knocking on people's doors and washing their cars. That's why we spend so much time giving away cookbooks and cookbooks and cookbooks. By the way, we have 1 box of cookbooks left. The great albatross around Pastor Don's neck has been set free. And it has flown over this neighborhood and blessed many people. And we'll leave that metaphor there because it's going to turn sour in a second. Active learning. Active learning. The idea that right here, what we're doing here, the lecture, it is something we do, but it is not where the most important discipleship occurs, and it's not where the most important learning occurs. In fact, even in our services on Sunday morning, why do I ask you to yell out the names of God? Why do we stop and take time to make sure that you're interacting and invested in what we do? Why is worship so valuable? For many reasons, but among others, it's something you do with your whole body, isn't it? Active learning, that's where the real learning takes place. And finally, city unity. We are at the way beginning end of this paradigm, both at Rio West and Lifesong. We are at the beginning of this learning curve of city unity. We're struggling to understand it, how it works and how we become part of it. But I am more and more convinced that it is God's plan to bring about a very significant city unity among the churches of Rio Rancho. And I think that it is our job to be positioned in such a way that when that bandwagon rolls by, we can be the first one on it. All right? And I think we're positioning ourselves for that, and I think that's what we need to do. All right, those are the 6 big ideas. Those are the rungs that kind of underline everything we do. I've said it before, and it's still true. Every activity, every program, everything we do in this church, you can answer why we do it with one of these 6 things.